In Palestine, figure shows that Israel invests nearly 10% of its GDP in the ongoing military campaign against Gaza, resulting in the death of more than 4,000 Palestinian children, while total Palestinian deaths stand at over 10,400. In Japan, locals gathered to reject G7 foreign ministers' meetings and to call for the immediate ceasefire in Palestine. And Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa announced his resignation after being involved in a wide-ranging corruption investigation. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. Israel has invested nearly 10% of its gross domestic products in a military campaign that has resulted in the death of more than 4,000 Palestinian children. The Ministry of Finance figures contemplates an investment of 200 billion shekels, which is equivalent to about $51 billion. According to the national media, the money to finance the war does not exist, and raising it from national or international market will face complications. Additionally, an investigation carried out by the British media specialized in finance points out that Israeli campaigns after the outbreak of the war are operating at 20% or less of their capacities, and they add that 1 out of every 3 has closed down. Journalists demonstrated on Tuesday in Palestine in front of the United Nations headquarters in Ramallah to denounce the killing of journalists in Gaza and the West Bank while covering the war between Israel and Hamas. Demonstrators at the protest organized by the Palestinian journalists' unions warned that there is a plan to commit massacres against journalists in the coming days. The demonstrations call on the international community and the United Nations to intervene immediately.
The statement made by the spokesperson of the Israeli occupation army is stating that they do not guarantee the lives of journalists in Gaza is considered as a threat to them and a pre-justification for further crimes against them. Consequently, we have noticed a significant increase in crimes against journalists since the statement was made, and we anticipate and warn that there is a plan to commit massacres against journalists in the coming days. Therefore, we appeal to the international community, and we have submitted a message to the United Nations to intervene immediately in order to provide international protections for journalists. Secondly, we urge the initiation of proceedings by the International Criminal Court to prosecute the killers of Palestinian journalists.
The UN Security Council failed once more to reach agreements to end Israel's relentless bombing of Gaza. Since the beginning of the conflict, 4 drafts have been presented to the Security Council. All of them failed. The 15-member also failed to reach an agreement in the session convened by China and the United Arab Emirates on Monday behind closed doors. To date, more than 10,000 Palestinians have died in Israel shellings. At the end of the council, the Chinese ambassador Shang Yun and the Emirati ambassador Lana Saki issued a joint statement in which they called for an urgent humanitarian ceasefire and called that war have lost. On Tuesday, China said it will work to put an end to the fighting after the UN Security Council failed again on Monday to agree on a resolution to the month-long conflict between Israel and Hamas.
As to why the United States side only once opposed no cessation of the conflict, I think it is better to check with the United States directly. What I can tell you is that as the rotating president of the Security Council, China will continue to work with all parties concerned to promote responsible actions by the Security Council and to play a positive and constructive role in the efforts to put an end to the fighting and to alleviate the humanitarian situation with a view to ultimately realizing a lasting peace between Palestine and Israel through the two-state solution.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Japan on Tuesday for a meeting of G7 foreign ministers to set a common line on Gaza as calls for group for a ceasefire in the Palestine armed conflict. It should be noted that France was the only G7 member to vote in favor of a UN General Assembly resolution last month calling for an immediate humanitarian truce. The United States voted against it while Japan, Britain, Italy, Germany, and Canada abstained. In this regard, locals gathered in rejection of the G7 foreign ministers' meetings in Tokyo.
So Israel is massacring the people of Gaza and the G7 is effectively supporting it. In reality, we should be applying economic sanctions and various other forms of pressure to stop it, but we are in fact accomplice to it. I came here today to strongly protest against that. So Israel is...
Let's take a very short break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. On Tuesday in Venezuela, the leader of the Alianza Opositora del Lápiz, Antonio Ecarrit, requested the public prosecutors to open an investigation against the president of Guyana for violating the sovereignty of some territories of the South American country.
We agree with the referendum, yes, but we cannot waste time. We cannot waste time, and that is why we are going to the public prosecutor's office to initiate a criminal investigation, because there is a citizen of foreign nationality named Mohamed Irfan Ali, president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, who is committing crimes on Venezuelan soil. On Venezuelan soil, and of course, the public prosecutor's office should also initiate investigations against the gentleman who violates the sovereignty.
The Venezuelan opposition leader also points out that all political parties must unite to fight against the actions of the Guyanese government.
We have to unify all of us in relation to this. This is not a problem of internal politics. This is a problem of the state, and it has to be responded to with great seriousness and with great responsibility. These are criminal acts, and we have come to ask the Attorney General to act, because these are criminal acts that are occurring in the jurisdiction of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Cuban and Chinese parliamentarians political leaders have furthered deepen and consolidate their historic relations. On Monday, Ana María Machado, Vice President of the National Assembly of People's Power and the Council of State of Cuba, held a meeting with Xi Taifan, member of the political bureau and the Secretariat of the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party in the Maragua Hall on the national capital in Havana. The meeting serves to further consolidate the strategic nature of the relations between the two countries.
In every action we take at every moment, not only in the political sphere, but also from the point of view of state management, as well as from the management that even the Chinese business community itself makes in order to strengthen our relations. It is also honoring those excellent ties that have been cultivated for so many years between our peoples.
Meanwhile, Xi Jinping said that Cuba and China represents true cooperation between the socialist countries.
In the past 63 years of diplomatic relations under the dedicated cultivation of the historic leaders of both sides, the ties between China and Cuba have become more and more solid and dynamic over the years.
On Monday, at least 14 people died in a fire at Cerro Obligado in the Biobío region in southern Chile. It happened in the commune of Coronel inside a house where there were 8 adults and 6 minors, all of Venezuelan nationality. 5 fighting units arrived at the place to contain the flames, but it was not possible to save the life of the people inside. According to what was reported, the house had only one exit and one window and could be being used as an informal daycare center. The regional authorities assured that while the accusers of the fire are being investigated, they have contacted the relatives and are managing humanitarian aid. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel, teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. One final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Monday, an earthquake of magnitude 5.2 with epicenter in the town of Mana in the center of Ecuador shocked several cities, including Quito, the capital city. The total movement was registered at 22:33 local time and occurred at a depth of 21 kilometers, according to the Geophysical Institute. Residents of the highlands, Riobamba, Quito, and other 13 provinces of the country assured through social networks that their houses shook strongly. The Secretary of Risk confirmed the occurrence without issuing any report of victims injured or damage of consideration. Tens of thousands of Las Vegas hotels workers set a deadline last week for a general strike, threatening major disruptions to the city's economic backbone that could coincide with the Strip inaugural Formula One races later this month. The Culinary Workers Union said about 35,000 members whose contract expired earlier this year were ready and willing to walk off the job at 18 casinos if deals were reached with casinos giants MGM, Resorts International, CEASUR, Entrepreneurs, and Wings Resources by November the 10th.
Work hard for these companies. We deserve to not be left behind. We deserve to not have our hours cut. We deserve to not have to work 2 and 3 stations.
Also in the U.S. on Monday, the Screen Actors Guild SAG-AFTRA negotiators responded in a statement that they still disagreed with the latest proposals presented by the studios. Represented by the Association of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, the major productions companies on Saturday made what they called their last best and final proposal. The essential points of debate resolve around the terms of use of artificial intelligence in the industry. The Guild, which represents some 160,000 performers from extra to big screen stars, said it was terminated to get right agreements and therefore air the strike responsibly. On Tuesday, Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa announced his resignation after being involved in a wide-ranging corruption investigation. The Public Prosecutor's Office announced in a statement that it was investigating Costa and several members of its cabinet for alleged crimes of prevarication and active and passive corruption and influence peddling. The investigation, in which more than 3 locations were searched of houses on lithium mining concessions in the Romano and Barroso mines in the north of the country, as well as a project for a hydrogen energy production plant and another for the construction of a data center, both in Sines. Non-profit groups and activists involved in the rescue of migrants in the Mediterranean on Tuesday in Italy denounced plans of Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to send tens of thousands of migrants rescued by the Italian ships to a center in Albania. Social activists said it was a deportation and against international law. Albania agreed on Monday to temporarily take in some of the thousands of migrants arriving on Italian shores while their asylum applications are being processed.
We are enormously worried because the people who will be rescued by these military ships taken to centers in Albania risk being subjected to a deportation that risks violating international law. Above all, it wounds their humanity because people rescued by ships from one country then are deported to another that is outside of the European Union and put inside these centers risks becoming something that really destroys their and also our humanity.
On Monday, scientists published the result of a study conducted by NASA's James Webb Space Telescope and the Chandra X-ray Observatory that confirms the dawn of the universe. The research shows that the black hole known as UH-1 is 13.2 billion years old, and the scientists know that it is a black hole 10 times larger than our own Milky Way. We have come to the end of this brief, but before we say any goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscasts and contribute to provide an alternative news sources of the latest world updates. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and also use us on our socials. We're on Facebook and X and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.